I could hear the muffled clatter of dinner plates as I stepped into the dining room. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic herb potatoes hung in the air, thick and comforting, but it did little to ease the knot in my stomach. My mother stood at the stove, her apron dusted with flour, stirring a pot with quick, precise movements. Normally, the sight of her cooking would bring a smile to my face, but not today. Today, I felt the tension curling around us like the steam rising from the boiling pot. I hesitated for a moment, knowing full well what awaited me at the table. My father and brother already sat there, their faces set in expressions of unyielding focus as though preparing for a battle. "Elate," my brother said without looking up from his phone. The harsh tone in his voice slammed against my chest, adding to the weight I already felt. I shot a glance at my mother, hoping for a hint of understanding, but all I saw was her concentration on the dish, her expression unreadable. She seemed to be in her own world, a shroud of denial wrapping around her. "I had to finish an assignment," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. My voice trembled slightly the moment I mentioned school, a reminder of the future I was attempting to build away from this family's legacy of resentment and unresolved issues. "Whatever," my brother muttered as he swiped at his screen, clearly uninterested. I rolled my eyes, the urge to scream bubbling just beneath the surface. My heart pounded as I took a seat at the wooden table, its surface marred with scratches from years of family dinners and arguments alike. "So, how's the project coming along?" my father asked, his voice firm but lacking warmth. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed like a judge ready to pass sentence. "It's coming along fine," I replied, avoiding eye contact. "Thanks for asking." My attempt to sound casual felt hollow, the sincerity slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. "Just fine. You know, it would be nice to hear that you're actually pouring some time into your work instead of whatever that is," my brother interjected, his eyes finally lifting to glare at me. "The way you threw away the chance at an investment opportunity last week was embarrassing." Pain shot through my chest at the memory of my childhood home, the home that had once felt warm and full of possibilities, and how my brother and I sat in front of my father as he dished out praise for him while mockingly dismissing my dreams. "You don't get to talk to me about my dreams. You've always gotten the best of everything," I shot back, my hands clammy against the edge of the table. "Enough, both of you," my father's voice boomed, cutting me off. It washed over me, an oppressive force that mirrored the storm looming within me. I could feel the heat rising to my face, my heart racing. "This is a family dinner, let's keep it civil." Civil, the word hung in the air, sour and ripe with irony. The last thing our family dinners had ever been was civil. I felt my hands shaking ever so slightly, the underlying anger brewing just beneath the surface, waiting for a spark, a catalyst. As the meal progressed, the conversation turned to lighter topics, yet every attempt at laughter felt forced. Each subject seemed handpicked to skim over the painful core of our family dynamic. I glanced around the table, taking in my family, their laughter somehow feeling foreign, a contrast to the heaviness cloaked around my heart. My mother quietly served the chicken, a smile playing on her lips, but her eyes darted towards me with a knowing that deepened the pit in my stomach. After the meal, as I helped clear the table, a sense of dread coiled tightly around me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to blow up. Everything seemed primed for a confrontation. My mother glanced at me, her brows furrowing. "Honey, we need to talk," she said softly, her tone threading through the air like a thin strand of hope. "You mean you need to talk?" I muttered, not bothering to hide the bitterness in my voice. Every talk had always turned into a one-sided lecture, with me in the role of the misguided child. I could see her heartache in her eyes as she seemed to search for the right words, perhaps looking for a way to bridge the growing divide between us. "Take that tone with me," she replied, her own voice wavering slightly as she wiped her hands on the towel, the fabric sliding over her palm. "I just want to know how you really feel. It's important to me." I hesitated, my thoughts racing. How I feel? I could feel my pulse quicken as I searched for the words. "Do you really want to know how I feel? Because I think you already know. I feel betrayed. I feel mocked." Each word felt like a revelation, shedding the weight of years of pent-up frustration. Other family members had been favored, supported, while I had been pushed aside, my dreams swept under the rug. My mother's face fell slightly, a mixture of surprise and sadness crossing her features. "I didn't want that for you," she sighed, rubbing her temples as if to summon patience. "You know, your brother has always had a gift for numbers. He had the opportunity and made the most of it." "That's exactly why," I shot back, emotion thickening my voice. "You never gave me a chance. You chose him over me. You think I am not good enough, and I feel it every single day. It is unfair." The room went silent. Even the soft crackle of the evening fire seemed to pause at the razor-sharp edge of my words. My brother, who had been half listening from the other room, leaned against the doorway, finally taking an interest. "Why are you always playing the victim?" he sneered, crossing his arms tight over his chest. "It is pathetic. You didn't even take the job offer. You threw it away." "A job offer that you had taken as your own." My voice cracked, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. The tension thick in the air was so palpable I could almost taste it. "You both think that because you're successful, it gives you the right to treat me like this." "I worked hard for what I have," he retorted, his face hardening. "Why should I give you any handouts when you clearly refuse to take advantage of your opportunities?" At that moment, my heart felt like it was shattering into a million tiny pieces. "This isn't about handouts." My fists clenched at my sides, partly out of frustration and partly to prevent the tears from spilling over. "This is about family. You have no idea what it has felt like to watch you and mother constantly lift him up while I struggle to be seen." Calmly, my mother spoke, her voice almost a soothing whisper amidst the storm. You need to understand how things work. Life isn't fair, you cannot just expect things to come to you. The words stung like ice water washing over a wound, chilling down to my core. I see how the two of you look at me, I can feel the weight of your expectations crushing down on me, and all you do is tell me to get over it. I am only trying to prepare you for life, my father added, stepping back in after hearing the commotion. He looked like a king surveying a battleground, steadfast but blind to the casualties around him. This isn't just about you, you need to realize where the stakes are. No, I felt fire surging within, lifting me, pushing me. You refuse to see me, you see my brother and what you want him to be. I do not want favors, I do not want to be treated like a charity case. I want to be acknowledged and you just refuse to see it. Maybe if you worked harder, my brother started again, his tone mocking, but I cut him off. Maybe if you cared more, I snapped, my voice rising. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in on me. Enough, I could see it in my father's eyes, the irritation boiling over. We are family, either you learn to get along or he let the unfinished thought hang in the air, a threat that ignited an ember of fear deep within me. Or what, you will cut me off too? I shot back, my voice leaving my lips almost involuntarily. The air felt pregnant with silence, waiting for my mother to retaliate, but surprisingly it was father who spoke up. Look, I don't have time for this. His voice lost its earlier strength, cracking a bit under the pressure of his own frustrations. You want to talk about fairness? You have no idea how tough it is to maintain this family. Then maybe you should listen to me and stop playing favorites, my voice echoed in his still fury. Suddenly, oblivion seemed more inviting than the chaos that had unfolded. The room felt heavy with emotions, and I could barely breathe. The air vibrated with unexpressed anger and resentments. The family I had known had become a dense fog of confusion. With every second, my feelings shifted from anger to something else, determination. The realization hit me hard, igniting a fire I did not know I possessed. I had been overshadowed for too long, tethered to their expectations. Maybe it was time to break free entirely, to step out of the shadow my brother and parents had cast. Maybe it is time I fight my own fight, I said, my words almost like a whisper but laced with intent. Emotion swelled within me, and I knew I could not stay shackled to this family dynamic any longer. I turned on my heel and headed toward the hallway, my heart galloping in my chest. As I reached for the door to the outside world, I glanced back one final time, and the sight of my family remained frozen in that moment. A tableau of disbelief, shock so thick I could slice through it with a knife. Just before I stepped outside, my mother's voice fell heavy behind me. You think you can just walk away, Amelia? With the moon hanging full in the night sky, I slammed the door behind me, the sound a harsh finality that reverberated against the silence. The air outside felt fresh and cool against my skin, each breath a reminder of my resolve to escape this suffocating place. But deep down, I knew the reckoning would come. It would not end here. The embarrassment, the favoritism, the feeling of being cut off, this was just the beginning. And revenge, a fiery revenge, was brewing just beneath the surface, waiting for its moment to be unleashed. I sat at the edge of my bed, my heart pounding like it had just run a marathon. The sound of laughter seeped through the closed door from downstairs. My parents, my sister, and my brother were gathered for dinner, sharing jokes and stories while I was left here, wrapped in a cocoon of betrayal and resentment. The smell of my father's famous Italian lasagna floated up the staircase, bringing with it a tidal wave of memories. My father would stand over the stove, apron tied around his waist, the flicker of the flame reflecting in his eyes as he stirred the sauce with love and care. I used to love those moments, the scent of garlic and herbs mixing with the sweet, warm notes of baked cheese, but now it felt like a cruel reminder of how much I had lost. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing away the thoughts that threatened to drown me. How could they sit there together, laughing, while I felt like an intruder in my own home? It was as if they had declared me a ghost, casually ignoring my presence while I stood on the sidelines, frantically waving my arms, begging them to see me, hear me, know me. A knock on the door jolted me out of my swirling thoughts. It was my sister. Hey, you coming down? The tone of her voice was too bright, too cheerful, like she was trying to coax me out of some dark cave. I could hear my brother chime in from the hallway. Yeah, dinner's almost done, you don't want to miss out. I could just picture my mother in the background, probably giving my siblings that look, the one that demanded they include me for family's sake. But family had never felt like a two-way street. I think I will just skip dinner, I called back, putting as much nonchalance into my voice as I could muster, but I could feel the cracks starting to show. What, why? My sister's voice shifted, worry creeping in. Just not hungry, I replied curtly, then added, you go ahead, enjoy. I listened to the silence stretch between us, her confusion palpable, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. She wasn't the enemy, she was supposed to be on my side. Yet somehow she had fallen in line with the rest of them. Fine, she huffed, just sit up there moping, whatever. I could hear her footsteps retreating and the laughter resumed. I buried my face in my hands, feeling the sting of tears in my eyes. I wasn't just a person dwelling on sadness. I was the one who got pushed aside, cut out of family decisions while they painted a beautiful picture without me. Moments later, I heard the jovial sounds of utensils clinking against plates, punctuated by bursts of laughter. It grated on my nerves like a loud clock ticking away the time of my exile. I stood up from my bed, pacing the small room. The walls felt like they were closing in, pushing me toward the door. I needed to confront them, needed to voice the feelings that pricked at my skin, gradually transforming into a raw, gaping wound. They would have to listen to me eventually. They had to understand the full weight of their betrayal. Before I knew it, I was walking down the hallway, the floorboards creaking under my weight. I halted outside the door, my hands slowly curling into a fist. My heart raced as I debated whether to barge in or knock, to demand answers or softly plead for understanding. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open, the smell of lasagna hitting me like a wave. The atmosphere in the dining room was vibrant, almost electric, with my family seated around the table, plates piled high with food. My brother was animatedly recounting a funny story about school while my father leaned back in his chair, a wide grin plastered across his face. My mother's laughter melded with my brother's, filling the air with warmth, while my sister kept glancing at me, a hint of worry in her gaze. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence," my brother exclaimed, smirking. Felt all eyes on me. I hesitated, searching for the right words, feeling an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. "I just wanted to talk." "Talk about what?" my sister asked as she neatly pushed her hair behind her ear. I swallowed hard, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "About what you all have been doing to me. What's going on? Why am I being left out of everything?" My father's demeanor changed slightly. The laughter faded from his eyes as he glanced at my mother, then back at me. "Amelia, we were just sharing a meal together. You're always welcome to join us." "Always welcome," I echoed, hands shaking at my sides. "You've cut me off. You act like I do not even exist anymore. If you really cared, you would have reached out. If you really cared, you would not have helped my sister prepare for her promotion without including me. It feels like you all chose her over me." I could see my sister's face go pale, and for a fleeting moment I felt a pang of regret. "I mean, we've always supported each other's successes," my sister stammered, trying to fill the silence. "It's not about support, it is this unfair favoritism," I shouted, tears welling up. My voice cracked as I continued, "Mom, Dad, every time I've tried to share my plans, all I get is dismissive remarks. I was going to launch my own business too, but that does not matter to you, does it?" My mother's lips pressed into a thin line and her brow furrowed in a way that meant she was preparing for a lecture. "Amelia," she began calmly, "there's a reason your sister's career is taking off. She works hard, and maybe you just need to find that drive within yourself as well." Drive? My mind raced. I could feel the heat rising within me, lending strength to my words. "Is that what you call me trying to pursue my dreams while you all ignore me? I deserve recognition too. I demand to be seen for who I am. Why do I need to fight for your attention? Why do I need to convince you that I matter?" The room was thick with tension, silence swallowing my words. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair as if struggling to find the right response, but he never had the right words for moments like these. Finally, my mother sighed. "Sweetheart, you do matter. You need to understand." "No," I interrupted, my voice rising again. "You do not get to tell me what I need to understand. I should not have to feel like this. I should not be made to feel inferior. Maybe if you had taken the time to listen, I wouldn't," my sister barked back. "You know, sometimes I think you just enjoy feeling sorry for yourself. Maybe if you got out of your own head, you could realize that we are all dealing with our own things." I froze, her words slicing through the air like a knife. "Enjoy feeling sorry for myself?" I stepped forward, my heart racing with fury. "You think I want this? I want my family back. I want us to all be happy together." "Then stop acting like a victim," my brother snapped, annoyance creeping into his voice. "You're making it impossible to be with you." His words echoed through my mind as he pointedly turned away, focusing instead on his plate as if my pain was suddenly unworthy of his attention. I glanced around the table, my heart sinking deeper with despair. The faces of my family, once comforting and loving, now felt like strangers, each of them wrapped in their little worlds while I stood on the periphery, desperate for connection. "I just wanted to be part of this family," I murmured, my voice small, barely above a whisper. "But it seems you have all chosen differently." My father finally spoke up, the disappointment lined on his face, hardening his features. "You don't understand, do you? We've all worked hard for what we have. There are expectations. You can't just demand to be seen without showing effort yourself." All the air left my lungs, and I stood there, stunned as his words settled in the space between us like a heavy weight. Did he really think I had not tried? Rage bubbled beneath the surface, merging with hurt and frustration. "I see how it is," I said quietly, the emotion cracking my voice. "You only care about the achievements you can flaunt, not the relationships that mean something. I get it, I just don't want to be a part of this version of family anymore." With that, I turned on my heel and stormed out of the room, the door slamming behind me. The laughter faded into stunned silence, my chest tight with the swell of anguish. I rushed up the stairs and flopped onto my bed, letting the tears flow freely now, each drop a mixture of pain and steely resolve. In that moment, I made a choice. I wasn't going to remain sidelined in this twisted game of favoritism and neglect. I had things to prove to myself and to them. I was tired of feeling like the outsider. It was time to reclaim my narrative. As I wiped the tears away, a fire ignited in the pit of my stomach. There would be consequences for how they had treated me, and I would not back down, and with that thought, I sat up straight, determination settling in. They would see me, recognition wouldn't be a luxury, it would be a demand. A final realization dawned mixed with anger. There was a family bond, but it had become a battlefield, and I was ready to take my stand. I glanced out of my window, watching the sunset bleed red into the horizon as if the world outside were reflecting my internal turmoil. I realized this chapter had just begun as I stood in the kitchen, my hands trembling slightly as I chopped vegetables for dinner. I could feel the tension hanging in the air like a thick fog. The aroma of sautéing onions filled the room, but it did little to ease the irritation simmering inside me. My father had strictly told everyone to gather for the dinner where the latest family drama would unfold like a motion picture with no closure. My brother was pacing around in the living room, his fists clenched, clearly on edge, and I could only imagine the smirk he would throw at me, smug in his status as the favored child. The moment I heard my mother calling everyone to the table, my heart began to race. "Dinner time," she chirped, her voice carrying the cheerfulness of someone oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. As I moved to sit down, I could see my sister already at the table, her hands nervously toying with the edge of her napkin, our brother across from her, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. Finally, my brother snapped, a hint of disdain curling his lips. "I can't believe we're doing this again." The weight of his words sank into my chest like a lead ball. It was as if he was blaming me for the very existence of this dinner, this impending confrontation over our grandfather's inheritance. My hands shook, and I focused on my breath to steady myself. I was tired of being the scapegoat in this family, tired of my worth being judged by inheritance instead of the love I carried in my heart. "I just want to know where we stand," my sister echoed my silent thoughts, raising her voice slightly, glancing at our mother who was busy setting the table with a carefulness that belied the brewing tension. "We all deserve to have a say in this." She was right, of course, but standing with her only felt like standing on shifting sand under the weight of our brother's ego. "What's there to stand on?" my brother retorted. "He made his choice, you all got your thrill from being his favorite. Guess I'll just get cut off again." The bitterness in his tone sent a chill up my spine, and I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. "I don't care about the money, this is about family," my sister countered, her voice cracking slightly, hinting at just how much it hurt to put herself out there. "Family should come first." I saw my mother's posture stiffen at my sister's outburst, a flicker of disappointment flashing in her eyes. "You both need to be careful about what you say. This isn't the time for an argument." That was it. The palpable tension circled around the dining table like a predator, each of us waiting for the other to make the first move. Behind my stoic demeanor, a storm was brewing. The scent of roasted chicken wafted in, mingling with the chopped salad, yet I could barely taste anything but bitter emotions. "What about Grandpa's will?" I could hardly believe those words came from my own mouth, my heart pounding in anticipation of the chaos that was about to engulf us. "Dad said we would discuss it tonight," my sister said, glancing at our father, who had just entered the room with an air of restraint, his face settling somewhere between exhilaration and uncertainty. "That is, if you can all keep it together," he added, trying to inject some levity into a moment that felt far from whimsical. "Keep it together. Look what that has earned us," my brother huffed, his face growing redder with each word. "My entire life has been a joke in this family. How can you expect me to keep it together when everything has already fallen apart?" I felt a jolt of recognition. He was right on some level. This whole family had been riding the roller coaster of covert and overt favoritism for years. I had been left in the shadows too many times, too many moments stolen away from me in a vain attempt at keeping peace. "That's not fair," I spat, feeling a surge of empowerment wash through me, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "We've all had to deal with this, you know, you are not the only one who feels slighted." The table grew silent as every gaze turned to me, uncertainty flickering across their faces. My brother's angry eyes locked on mine, and I could sense the battle lines being drawn. "Here comes Miss Perfect," he taunted, the edge to his tone sharp enough to cut. "What a joke you are," he added, leaning forward, antagonizing me the way he had done so many times before. "This entitlement you carry is suffocating." I stood up, my chair scraping against the tiled floor, and I stared him down. "It's not entitlement, it's standing up for myself. You do not own the monopoly on our grandfather's decisions or his love." "That's enough," my father exclaimed, his voice booming through the room, halting the clash. "Amelia, sit down." I bit my lip, torn between compliance and my instincts to push the conversation further. It was suffocatingly painful to see my brother so stuck in his own anger, so unwilling to see that I too had been affected by our grandfather's favoritism. "You know, you're always so concerned about your status, about being the favored child," I said, my voice calmer now. "But what about the days when every decision you made drove a wedge deeper between us?" I could feel the tension prickling at the back of my neck, but something within me surged forward. "This isn't just about money or inheritance," I shouted, catching the eyes of my mother. "This is about being a family, something we have neglected for too long." The disarray around the table reflected our fractured bonds. I caught my brother's expression soften for a moment, surprise flickering across his features. "And what would you have us do? Wish away the past?" He shot back, venom still drenching his words. My heart sank. It felt like two bullheads clashing in an empty field, both of us so blinded by hurt that forging a common ground seemed futile. "No," my sister interjected, her voice shaky yet resolute. "She's saying we need to tackle this together, make a plan. I refuse to sit at this table and let our grandfather's choices decide our entire lives." Something about her words resonated through the chaos. I could see a flicker of hope in her eyes, a determination surfacing. "I just don't understand why he would choose to favor any one of us. It's unfair, it has always been." My voice shook slightly, but I pushed through, fatigue giving way to an invigorating sense of freedom. "There is no chosen child here, only a family in turmoil." I felt the undeniable thrum of solidarity. As my mother pressed her palms together, trying to bridge our widening gap, my father's expression twisted from frustration to concern. "This is tearing us apart," he murmured, looking back and forth between the three of us. I could sense his regret, his unspoken wishes from a past he could not change, but we were all too charged with melodrama to notice. "We can't keep pretending everything is all right," my sister said quietly but firmly, and the table seemed to grow even quieter. We need to address this openly, right here and right now. I took a deep breath, my instincts guiding me. Let's take back what is rightfully ours, the trust we've lost in each other. You mean your so-called trust? My brother countered back, a bitter undertone creeping into his voice. You think just because you say a few nice words we'll all forget, you have to earn trust back. Nothing is that simple. I could say the same about you, I fired back, my pulse quickening. You've hoarded anger so much, it's suffocating you. The room filled with silence, punctuated only by the soft sounds of the roasted chicken sizzling in the oven, each second stretching out as the weight of our conversations hung palpably in the air. But then something abrupt happened. As my mother shifted awkwardly in her seat, she finally broke her silence, her voice steady but filled with urgency. We need to gather all the will's documents and see what he actually left behind. The mention of our grandfathers will jolted us all forward, a shift in the atmosphere, sharp and electric, crackling with potential revelations. I felt a shiver run down my spine, unsure of what lay hidden within those papers but feeling an intensity rise. Maybe it will clear the air, she continued, glancing at each of us, her expression a mixture of defiance and determination. We cannot ignore what has been handed down to us. The tension in the room turned palpable as my brother's lips curled into a smirk. So now what, you all just wait for the magic to solve everything, he taunted, chipping away at our tentative unity. We're doing this together, my sister said firmly, locking eyes with him, a fire lighting up in her expression. We are going to find the truth whether you like it or not. In that moment, I could feel the tremors of our discontent beneath the fragile facade of family unity ready to explode. As our gazes met in that round of silent understanding, I felt empowered and determined, a whisper of resolve flickering within me. And before I could react, he shot up and smashed his fist on the table, the sound echoing through the room. Then let's see just how ugly this family can get. His voice echoed, and my heart raced, fear lacing with an unexpected thrill. His words hung in the air like ominous clouds ready to burst. The table rattled slightly under the force, and I could feel my breath hitching. I couldn't believe he would take it that far, but I knew then that this was just the beginning. As my family was thrown into chaos, I realized something crucial. We were standing on a precipice, teetering over the edge of family loyalty and betrayal, and the impending storm was about to erupt, sending us tumbling into the depths of our submerged grievances. As I sat frozen in place, the air around me grew heavy with unresolved conflicts, anger boiling like a cauldron, bubbling over with secrets and unspoken words, and amidst it all, I felt my spirit rising from a mere victim to someone ready to fight for what she deserved. Little did I know that dinner would be the precipitating moment in a chain of events that would change the course of our lives forever, one shocking revelation at a time. And as I glanced nervously at everyone around me, I knew we were on the brink of something big. The walls of our family were about to tremble violently in the aftermath of our grandfather's choices, and revenge lingered tantalizingly close. Waiting for the right moment to be revealed, the sun was dipping low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow through the large windows of our family home. The dining room table was set, shimmering plates and polished silverware gleaming in the light, but the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken tension. As I walked in, a knot twisted tighter in my stomach. The smell of roasted chicken wafted toward me, mixing with the scent of the floral centerpiece my sister had arranged earlier. How could something so lovely feel so suffocating? About time you showed up, my brother said, casually leaning back in his chair, his face a picture of mock indifference. I hope you're ready for the family discussion. Let's just get through dinner first, my mother chimed in, her voice possibly meant to soothe, but it felt more like an attempt to sweep something under the rug. Gratitude flickered inside my mind for a brief moment. She always tried to play peacemaker, but today felt different. The weight of anticipation tangled with worry. Right, let's make it quick, my sister muttered, rolling her eyes. I have plans later. She was flipping through her phone, seemingly more interested in her screen than the looming conversation. I froze, catching her dismissive tone. Plans? Did she even know what we were about to talk about? It felt like she had chosen her friends over me once again. I took my seat, scanning the room for the rest of my family. My father was nowhere in sight yet, which set off alarm bells in my mind. I had heard whisperings of an inheritance reading, but my father had brushed off the topic every time I had dared to bring it up. What would he say tonight? Would he defend my sister's sudden luxury purchases? Would he act as if everything was just fine? My heart raced at the thought of the conversations that were about to unfold. Finally, my father strode in. His presence filled the room instantly, the air thickening around him. The wrinkles on his forehead deepened as he pulled out a chair, the scraping sound echoing in the suddenly silent room. Sorry to keep everyone waiting, he said, voice steady but eyes carefully scanning the room, landing on me, then my sister, and lastly my brother. What's this all about? My father continued, breaking the stillness that had smothered us. His tone held a blend of authority and something softer that I had always found comforting until now. Let's just eat first, my sister said, breaking her eye contact and returning to her phone screen. I hoped my father would push back, but instead he nodded, and the tension thickened with each minute that ticked by. As my mother began serving the food, every plopping of the chicken made my heart pound heavier, a thumping reminder of the storm rumbling inside me. It was almost time. Would they acknowledge what they had done? My brother began eating, the clatter of his fork against the plate harsh against the quiet that draped around us. Great chicken, mother, he turned to my sister. You should take lessons. Like you would know anything about food, my sister scoffed, snapping her head toward him, but her eyes still glued to her phone. Can we please just focus here? I finally blurted out, unable to hold the frustration in any longer. Their casual banter was like nails on a chalkboard, even as my insides twisted in knots. We need to talk about the inheritance. The room froze, my sister's gaze snapped up, eyes wide with disbelief, while my brother looked at me with something akin to contempt. My mother dropped the serving spoon, the clattering sound shattering the thick silence. What do you mean? My mother asked, her voice steady but her eyebrow arched with concern and perhaps a hint of anger. I mean the inheritance. I heard something about a reading, and quite frankly, I do not like how this is being handled. I said, my voice slightly shaky but firm, the tightness in my chest pushing me to speak out. My father's expression was stone cold, but I could see a flicker of unease pass through his eyes. There is nothing to discuss. You know that your grandfather wanted this to remain private. His tone was serious, but there was a defensiveness to it that made my heart race. Private? I echoed, my voice rising without realizing it. What do you mean private? You received $250,000 from the estate. How is that fair? Enough, my father ordered, his voice lowering to a growl. It stung, sending a wave of humiliation crashing over me. You have no understanding of what your grandfather intended. And you do? I shot back, my hands shaking now, heart pounding like a drum echoing off the walls. Or have you just chosen to ignore that I deserve a say in this too? Stop acting like a child. My brother nearly yelled, leaning forward as if our voices could somehow push me back into submission. You are being unreasonable. Unreasonable, I burst out, my breath quickening. You think I'm being unreasonable for wanting a fair share, for wanting to be part of this family? Family, you mean that thing you keep running away from, enjoying life while we're working hard? He snapped, his voice slicing through the air like glass. You don't get to come here demanding everything from us. Demanding every. Is wanting a piece of what I am entitled to really that outrageous? I dared them with my eyes, the anger boiling inside like a storm threatening to break. You've been acting like favorites, and it feels like everyone else is having their needs ignored. When is it going to be enough for you? This house, the stuff in it, the money. My mother's hands shook as she placed a plate down, the clinking sound almost drowned in the tension building around the table. This is not the time for bickering, we are a family. We should discuss this calmly. Calmly, I laughed bitterly, an edge of madness creeping into my laugh, sounding louder than intended. You can't be serious, Mother. Right now, everything feels so unfair. I came here for support, not to be mocked. Mocked? My sister finally looked up, annoyance dripping off her words. Why do you always make everything about you? What have you even done? You're the one who left and built a life somewhere else. Enough. My father boomingly interjected, a flash of temper I had not seen in some time. This is our family home. My father worked hard for everything you see here. And what is your plan? To tear it apart with your selfishness? I was taken aback, emotions pooling like water below the surface threatening to burst through. Selfishness? I am not the one who spent $10,000 on that ridiculous car as if it's a toy. Incredible, just incredible. My brother leaned back, crossing his arms like a suffocating wall in front of me. You were supposed to come here and be part of this family, but instead you just keep throwing tantrums. We don't need that negativity. Negativity? My eyes widened in disbelief. You all are standing there acting like this is normal, acting as if a part of me does not belong. I deserve this as much as anyone else here, and you can't tell me I shouldn't feel that way. Every eye was on me now, the weight of their gazes pressing down like a storm cloud hanging heavy in the sky. My sister was shaking her head, disbelief etched across her features. My brother's expression had morphed into something cold, a brutal wall of indifference that only made me feel smaller. My mother sighed heavily, her disappointment both stinging and infuriating. Amelia, you need to listen, my father said, barely managing to keep his voice even. We cannot just rearrange everything for you. Why not? Why does everything have to go your way? There it was, the beginning of empowerment mixed with anger coursing through me. Why does it always feel like I am the last to know, as if all of you have made your decisions without any thought for me? The silence that followed felt like a shattering glass. Tension crackled in the air, and I could feel my heart racing, pounding loudly as I stared down my brother and sister. What made it worse was the way they exchanged glances, as if to assert some kind of secret against me. I felt betrayed, cut off from the bond I once thought was unfaltering. Look, my father started, hesitating, searching for the right words. This has to be handled with care. Handled with care? I repeated incredulously. Since when was anything about me handled with care? You all have pushed me aside like a bad memory. How can you stand there and act like nothing is wrong? Fine, my brother half launched out. Then maybe you should have stuck around longer and been part of the family. Maybe what? My words cut through his. Maybe I should become just like you, too busy flaunting your inherited wealth while pretending the world doesn't exist beyond this house. My sister laughed harshly. You talk about wealth as if it is toxic. Isn't that what you want? To have it all? Excuse me, my blood boiled. You know nothing about what I want. I just want equality and fairness. This is our family. You both need to wake up. Wake up to what the crazy demands you make. My sister sneered, irritation bubbling over in her voice. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang sharply, a welcome disruption to the chaos that had been brewing. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and my mother shot up, frowning in annoyance. Who could that be? She grumbled, clearly irritated at the interruption. She hurried off to answer it, leaving us in an awkward silence, the weight of the discussion still hanging around us like an uncomfortable ghost. What if it's someone important? My brother mumbled, shooting a contemptuous glance my way. Or are you just going to shout again? I swear I just want some respect, I hissed under my breath just as my mother returned, her expression shifting from annoyance to wide-eyed confusion. Who is it? I asked, leaning forward, and immediately regretted it as the tension returned like an unwanted wave. She hesitated, stepping aside, revealing a figure behind her. It's a lawyer. The room went utterly silent again, a blanket of shock covering us. My heart raced, panic flickering across my mind. A lawyer? What were they doing here? What did this mean for us? Good evening, the lawyer intoned, smooth and composed, eyes scanning the gathered family. I am here regarding the estate and matters of inheritance. I felt my stomach drop. In a family where secrets lurked just beneath the surface, this felt like the bomb had finally dropped. Silence echoed through the air, threads of uncertainty and fear weaving through all our minds as the lawyer continued. There are crucial developments that you all need to be made aware of. Something in me shifted. I needed to know what was happening. I had to stay strong, stand my ground. And perhaps finally, just maybe, things would start to unravel the way they should. Everyone needs to hear this, I whispered, bracing myself for the insight we had been so blissfully ignoring. What else had been hidden? My heart drummed in my chest, echoing the storm swirling between us as the lawyer moved forward. It was finally time for pieces to be revealed, the masks to come off. The confrontation that had been brewing was about to explode, and I would not let them take this moment away from me. I clenched my fists, feeling the rush of adrenaline, the rising tide of righteous anger woven deep within me, ready to fight against years of being overlooked and unheard. Whatever was to come next, I was ready to face it. And I would not let them silence me again. I stood in the dimly lit hallway of my childhood home, the familiar scent of old wood and fading memories wrapping around me like a thick shawl. I could hear the muffled sounds of my parents in the living room, their voices a strained mix of concern and disappointment. My heart raced as I recalled the secrets hidden within these walls, a treasure trove of family drama waiting to erupt. Today was the day I would finally confront them all with the truth. I could not allow my voice to crack or my hands to shake, not after everything these past few months. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the dusty air, and stepped forward, knowing that what lay ahead would change everything. Amelia, you need to listen to us, my mother was saying, her tone sharp and urgent. I paused just outside the doorframe, peering in to see her sitting rigidly on the couch, fingers clenched together. My father was pacing in front of her, his brow furrowed deep with worry. This was it, the moment I had been anticipating for far too long. No, I'm done listening to you. I burst through the door, my fists tightly balled at my sides. You've treated me like I don't even exist in this family. My voice echoed throughout the room, shocked gasps followed. My father froze, wheels visibly turning in his mind. My mother went pale, her skin a porcelain mask that threatened to crack under the pressure. Amelia, please, my father replied, his voice steady but strained. Let us explain. He stopped pacing and turned to face me, his shoulders tense. I could see the familiar worry etched around his eyes, but I could no longer hear the warmth in his tone. They looked so different, so distanced from the loving family I desperately wanted to remember. I shook my head, looking at my father and feeling the heat rise in my chest. You've chosen my sister over me, I spat, the bitterness thick in my throat. All those times I watched your eyes light up every time she walked into the room while I stood in the shadows. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked furiously, unwilling to give them the satisfaction of seeing my pain. Do you even care what this has done to me? We didn't mean to hurt you, my mother said, her voice shaky. You had a different path, Amelia. You always wanted to travel to find yourself. We thought you would be happier alone. Her face was a canvas of remorse and stubborn denial, but it did little to sway my heart. I was tired of the excuses, tired of feeling like an outsider in my own family. I wanted my family to support me, I cried, rage spiking through me. But the truth is, you never supported me. You cut me off when I needed you most, only to hover over my sister like a hawk. You just don't want to admit it. An unsettling silence settled over the room like a heavy fog, but I waded through it, my heart pounding with every word I said, each one more powerful than the last. My father's jaw clenched, veins bulging at his temple. You need to understand, Amelia. We made those choices based on what was right for the family. Your sister has been struggling. We were just trying to help her. I could hear the strain in his voice, almost a desperate plea for understanding, but I was not in a forgiving mood. Help her? I echoed incredulously, my voice raising as I stepped forward. You mean to smother her with favoritism while I'm left to pick up the pieces? The accusation hung in the air, thick and pungent. I went through hell trying to get my life together while you overlooked my struggles. My mother's expression shifted, morphing from concern to indignation. You have always made your own choices, Amelia. You never listened to us. Exactly, I snapped back, my emotions boiling over. Because when I tried to reach out, all I got was indifference. You both refused to even send me one letter after I left for school. I was alone when I needed you, and you chose her over me over and over again. I felt the walls of the room close in around me, a claustrophobic reminder of everything I had endured. We did our best, my father yelled, the veins on his neck bulging in frustration. You made your own choices, you wanted independence. Independence? I felt a wave of bitterness wash over me. Or perhaps it was your neglect that drove me to seek it. My voice cracked slightly, the sharpness of my words surprising even myself, but I continued, the truth clawing its way out. Maybe if you had actually cared, I would not have distanced myself so much. You treated me like a burden, an afterthought. My sister got your attention for everything, school plays, her victories, every single step she took. My mother flinched at my words, and I could see the guilt flicker across her face. That's not true, Amelia. We cared, we always cared, did you? I interrupted, the question hanging between us like a gaping hole. Did you really? I could feel my heart racing as I paced in front of them, channeling my anger into something powerful. Or did you just use me as a scapegoat to protect her? My sister's name now felt like poison on my tongue. Amelia, please calm down, my father urged, his voice a mixture of frustration and fear. I recognized the fear, the way it pooled in the corner of his eyes. You are making wild accusations. Wild accusations, I laughed bitterly, the laughter echoing in the silence that followed. You think I am making this up? I have felt this betrayal my whole life. You're being dramatic, my mother shot back, her tone dismissive. But I could see the tears threatening to spill from her eyes, the carefully crafted facade beginning to crack. You really want to talk about drama? I challenged, stepping closer, closing the gap between us. I have seen you both put on an act, pretending you were a perfect family while neglecting the cracks creeping in between us. I watched my sister get everything she wanted, and here I am, still begging for acceptance. Amelia, my father started again, but I could see the flicker of frustration and guilt in his eyes. I was getting through to him. You need to understand. No, you do not get to silence me any longer, I shouted. I am tired of being the one who holds this family together while you both take your sides. You think I do not know about the money, about the inheritance you two were keeping from me? My heart pounded, a mixture of jealousy and disbelief swollen inside me. You think I have forgotten the $100,000 that is just supposed to be divided among us? It has only gone to them while I am left empty-handed. Amelia. My mother started, her voice strange now, somewhere between a gasp and a plead. You call her your little sunshine while I am just the shadow, I shouted, my hands shaking with unresolved anger and hurt. The emotions burst forth like a dam breaking. What did I ever do to deserve being left behind? Silence fell heavily around us, thickening the tension in the air. My father rubbed his temples, and for a moment I thought perhaps he would understand the weight of his indifference. We never wanted to hurt you, Amelia, he finally managed, but his dampened tone did little to soften the blow. You say that, I bit back, but the truth remains, you never cared about the one who needed you the most. The hurt continued to spill out as I took shaky breaths. Your neglect turned into this horrible secret, kept hidden until it festered into resentment. I am done pretending that I belong here when you have both turned your backs on me. I stepped back, my breath coming in harsh gasps, and stared at the faces of the two people who had once felt like my entire world. Their expressions were a mixture of disbelief, realization, and perhaps a hint of understanding. I deserve better than this, I said firmly. I will not be a silent participant in your flawed family dynamic anymore. The weight of my words hung in the air, heavy with unresolved fears and ferocious resolve. I turned toward the door, swallowing the heaviness in my throat, bracing myself for the inevitable onslaught of their reactions, each breath feeling powerful and freeing. And just as my hand reached the doorknob, I heard my mother call out softly, Amelia, wait. I paused, my heart racing wildly, the handle cold under my palm. You can't just leave. At that moment, I felt an empowering surge of determination. I was done being the one dismissed, the one quieted. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. I shot back, my voice steady, unwavering. The sensation was new, exhilarating even, rising from the ashes of resentment and hurt. The door was almost free, swinging open as I prepared to step outside the chaos that had been our family life, but something in my gut told me to stop. I turned, my gaze fixed squarely on their faces, both of them overshadowed by regret. You have no idea what I need, do you? My voice cracked slightly, but I pressed on. I am not asking for you to fix everything, I just wanted some recognition to be heard. I took a step out, feeling the air change around me, the weight of family expectations and past betrayal hoisted onto my shoulders, but I would not buckle. I was finally ready to find my own way, and just as I stepped through the door, I heard a sound that froze me in my tracks, the unmistakable thud of footsteps behind me. I glanced back over my shoulder to see my sister standing at the end of the hallway, her face a mix of shock and determination. Amelia, wait, she called, her voice sharp yet strangely soft. You cannot just leave things like this. The conflict hung heavy in the air, the distance between us charged with unspoken words. Did I dare to confront her now? I stood there in the dim light, questioning if this was the moment when everything would change once and for all. The tapestry of betrayal and secrets awaited revelation, and I felt the power simmering within me. I turned fully to face her, ready to reclaim my story, unaware that this confrontation held the key to unraveling our tangled lives, both of us standing on opposite sides of inherited pain and unclaimed truths.